Hey, good people. Welcome to the Evolving Education Project podcast, hosted by me, Dr. Tiffany M. Niachai, and friends, where we center the educational joys, passions, interests, and inquiries of people of color. This episode is part 3 of our Liberate Your Imagination, the Dark Fantastic and Black Characters in Fairy Tales, Fantasy, and Sci-Fi series, which is inspired by Dr. Ebony Elizabeth Thomas's book, The Dark Fantastic, Race and the Imagination from Harry Potter to the Hunger Games. For this episode, we are in conversation with DQ Abduwali Grant and John Washington, creators and facilitators of the Wakanda Alliance program in Buffalo, New York, so that we can learn how imaginations are being liberated throughout various communities. The Wakanda Alliance program was developed to help readers explore the historical context behind Marvel's most famous African heroes, the Black Panther, T'Challa, and his sister Shuri. Through this program, families engage in reading, arts, and team building activities, achieving the goal of a stronger, smarter, and inspired community. Due to their virtual and in-person programming, Black Panther fans from all around the world have taken the opportunity to join the conversation and connect with like-minded people when it comes to Afrofuturism and expanding knowledge. Y'all, let's get into this conversation. I am so excited. So I already talked to two of my brothers from the Wakanda Alliance program, but today I have John and DQ, who, if you heard the other part, they kept referencing these two guys. That every time they answered a question, they said, John this and DQ that. So I said, you know what? I need DQ on the show so that we can hear the history of the Wakanda Alliance program from you two. And this group has been such a blessing to my life. Really helping me to be creative with the podcast, to even think about my work outside of what I do every day. So I'm just so honored to have activist, scholar, organizer, John Washington, and I'm sure he's gonna tell us, and DQ, who is the businessman. We had him for the first gathering that we had, and he's back. But they do so many things, and I just wanted to hear about your stories around what the Wakanda Alliance program is, how it got started. Because I just felt like, I said, I need these two in here to really break down how things got started, what it is to you. So we'll do one question at a time. How about we do, what is the Wakanda Alliance program in all of its facets? Don't be giving me no baby answers. I want y'all, yes, I want good, expansive answers. What is the Wakanda Alliance program? What are we doing?
Well, Wakanda Alliance it's a lot of things. I think first it's just a space for people to think about Afrofuturism, but anchored in Wakanda as an example of it, right? And because a lot of people just talk about it all over the place, and we'll say, okay, we want to talk about Afrofuturism, we're going to start with Wakanda. We're not only about Wakanda, but we're going to start there. And so it's a space and a place for us to talk about Afrofuturism through the lens of Wakanda is our goal, right? As where we're trying to get to, and then even getting beyond that. And then we bring in young people, we bring in artists, we bring in creatives, whatever type of skill you have in this community, we want to bring it together through the lens of Afrofuturism to retell our history and to map out our futures. And what we've mostly done has been doing that through the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda, and a few of Ta-Nehisi Coates' recent runs of the Black Panther. So we actually go through and really break it down. It's entertaining to read it, but when you really pause and say, look, let's look at the names of these things. Let's look at these places. Let's take a minute to look at the art. And I mean, we also got to start shouting out Danny Lacuna more too, because the way he weaves African history and art with futurism is just so beautiful. And so, to me, and we'll talk more about this obviously in the story, but we've always been looking for that, right? Since we were little kids, And it's like the further Wakanda goes, the further our minds go.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just being able to bring other people into that conversation in lots of different ways and in flexible ways, and letting them also tell us, bro, maybe we want to go here with the conversation. We're like, all right, cool, let's go there too. So it's hard to describe because it is that, but it can be so much else too.
Yeah, it's forever evolving, right? And I mean, where it started, it came from that idea. Like I was in Barnes and Nobles, and I seen a whole big section for Star Trek and Star Wars, and I'm like, yo, what if that was a section like that, but for like black, like for Wakanda? You know what I'm saying? And just the imagination, of our people is so extraordinary, right? So for them to be able to, we want to gather all that. We want to get other kids. We want to get our people, the adults, the families. Like we really want them to be able to have a space so they can express that. Like, yo, I have an idea for a story that takes place in this future, this reality, and it's been great so far. It's been just amazing. 3 years we've been on it, so here we are. A third year.
I love it. I love it. So I'm going to tell you. So I want to hear the story of how everything got started, but I'm going to tell you how I think it got started, and then y'all can fix the story. Okay? Okay. So I think it got started from, you, DQ and John, you've always been friends for a long time. And you wanted to do something in the community, and then the Black Panther movie came out, and y'all was like, yo, we need to do this, da, 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 da. And then y'all pulled in, I need to stop saying da 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 but conversation, and then you are you have been you pulled in Davon and Anthony, and then you had your first Saturday event. Now, where am I? Fill in the more details and tell me where I'm wrong, where I'm right.
So first off, you're definitely right. We've been friends for a long time. Always used to kick it, talk on the phone for hours, just life. And obviously, we love comics, we love sports, just similar like goals and things. And honestly, it's hard. It's funny where things start, but I remember when Civil War came out, and that was the first time that Black Panther was on the screen. And I remember DQ calling me and just being like, yo, this is amazing. There was a lead up to it. And he was like, yo, there's going to be a Black Panther movie. And he really, DQ is a visionary in his own way, especially when it comes to arts and culture. And he was just like, yo, there's going to be a movie, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, there's going to be a movie, right? Then when they start actually talking about the movie, he was like, yo, this movie is going to be a moment, right? He saw it. Some version of himself saw what was going to happen with that movie. Me personally, I don't want to take credit for it because at the time I was like, all right, cool, like I'll rock with it. I honestly didn't believe it that much. And so, obviously he could say more about this, but, he, through Panthrica, built out this whole idea of renting out theaters and doing all this stuff. And again, he really encouraged me to believe in this idea that this movie was going to be a powerful moment in Black history, to be honest. And so I rolled with it, and I did whatever I could to like raise money and support what he was doing. And as it got closer, and as you started to see, the blog posts and the hit pieces and all, you could just see it growing right before it happened. And I was like, you know what? This man been on this thing the whole time. And I was thinking about like, if this is gonna be a wave, what are our surfboards, right? Like I didn't want it to just be over, right? And for me and him, who've been comic fans for this for a long time, this like the little kids in us is like, yeah, what's going down? Like I feel like that little 8, 9-year-old kid that was listening to Nas and reading Black Panther and watching X-Men cartoons. So I was like, we can't just let this be over with the movie. So I was like, okay, I do political education. Let's start thinking about some workshops. Let's start weaving this in with the organizing work that we're doing. And then he was like, okay, well, let's do those workshops at Buffalo Art Studio. And let's do a call for artists. And let's do a party. And let's do this and all of that. So all of this stuff is just coming from like, how do we take advantage of this moment? And then it just kind of continued from there. And there was really like, I worked with Davon on doing some workshops at BCAT. And I worked with, we worked with Buffalo Art Studio on doing not just workshops, but the whole art show. But then there was a long period of time from riding that wave of the Black Panther and doing those workshops individually. And then it was like, man, maybe we could do some animation. Maybe we could do this or that. And so we have meetings every Friday at like 5 or 6 o'clock or whatever. And we were bringing in different people, but nothing was sticking. You know what I mean? We were like, nothing, the vision wasn't clear. We knew we wanted to do stuff. And then, I don't know exactly how it happened, but then Ant and Davon started coming to those meetings.
I can tell you.
I'm gonna let you take it.
I can tell you. What happened was we were getting together to do the animation.
The animation, yeah.
We were trying to do an animation / comic book, and we had these 2 other people that was down with us, Leah, and she was coming through. Which she's so dope. Another individual who's dope as hell. We had Leah, and then we had the other brother. But it didn't work out. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because everybody's scheduled. So, Anthony has always been around. He's always been like the person that's been coming to all the events, taking pictures and stuff like that. So it's crazy because in my mind, I only envisioned him as being a photographer, right? And I had him only just to come through and document what we were doing. But but all of a sudden he started coming up with like stories, and next thing you know, like as you see him today, he morphed into an educator, teacher, a facilitator, right? But it really came from us, like, again, like he was saying, like us trying to figure out what we're going to do next, because we knew that it was going to be a wave. We knew that once this movie comes out, it's going to do great. When it did come out, it did great. It was a $1 billion movie, right? And then we understood that it's a wave that's going to continue to go and go. And we wanted to make sure that we continue to push the narrative, the wave as well, right? And wow, then the comic book came on.
Yeah, then the Intergalactic Empire. So, Ta-Nehisi Coates, before the movie, he started writing before the movie.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it took him some time to learn how to be a comic book writer. Like, it's a very different medium. So the first 2, he did a lot of dope work, but it wasn't, there was something missing, right? And then when in 2018, the Intergalactic Empire came out, and the first issue came out, and he called me, and I didn't read it yet, but he called me and he asked me, well, what are Maroons?
Yeah.
And I started explaining to him about the history of Maroons in African in the African diaspora, and just the idea of Black people separating themselves, moving in with indigenous people, with other Latinx communities and different things, and just coming together in the woods and separating themselves from society. And so we started getting a whole conversation about that because of the comic. Right. And then I read it, and I was just like, wow. Because it really is like, it's like they took like Harriet Tubman, Nat Turner, Slave Rebellion, then they took the diaspora, and then they ended the elements of technology and retelling of history, the nameless, taking away the names of these slaves, and then they projected it into a world where Njidaka, right, and then also with the movie flow, like, I think T'Challa and Njidaka represent this tension between Blackness of like, our excellence, and what does our excellence mean, right? And so T'Challa wants his excellence to mean liberation, but through Njidaka, he realizes, oh, we've been ignoring all of these people, right? And Njidaka's ruthless hustler, like, yo, y'all forgot about me, you ain't never forget about me again. I'm gonna get this power, I'm gonna get this money by any means. And so what they do is they take, and this is so true for what we're going through now with Black representation. We fought so long to have Black representatives, but now Black representatives are running the same system that's oppressing us. So the way that they took the past, what's going on now, and then they put it 2,000 years in the future, but still had T'Challa be a forgotten slave who starts a slave revolt of Maroons who overthrow this system. It was just weaving all this stuff together and then the intentionality of the art and the names. So as we read this thing, we're like, yo, we got to take the conversation him and I are having and put it out here. And at that time, Ant was getting more involved. I've been cool with Davon, and we worked together on, because when we did the movie, I rented a theater for our community center, and then we split it between our community center and Davon's at the time. And a lot of our kids, they knew each other. They would see each other out in the streets, because in Buffalo, kids get bussed around all over the place. And then you had this tension between like generationally poor black kids and African kids, right? And you would see this thing where our black American culture was eroding their African culture, right? They would come here, and I would see it happen because I worked at this community center. Kid would come here, 3 months of being in America, he goes from wearing sandals and dashikis to wearing J's and trying to fit in with black culture. And so it was just this perfect mix of, this thing is coming out. We have, these different like communities of people that we're trying to work together. And then it's cool looking. It's entertaining. It's a fun story. You know what I mean? And then after we had them see the movie, because we took 300 kids to see the movie for free. And so all those kids, from the day the movie ended, they were, well, why did they do this? And how come this? And this and this? And then it was like, you know what? We need to just build us a container for all this conversation, and the comic book, especially Ta-Nehisi Coates runs, and the movies are just a good reflection point. You know what I mean? They're a good thing to build the conversation off, and then Davon and Ant came through, and Ant became this educator, and he started really researching and taking it and making presentations out of it. And Davon is a program manager, and he's a creator too. So then we just had these real abstract ideas, and they both came through and just like solidified them and just got them rolling consistently. And then we're able to engage youth and other people that we wouldn't have been able to meet. So it wasn't, I won't say it was an accident, but like we didn't really intend it to be like it is. It just and it continues to fall in the right place.
Yeah. Because we were at BCAT, and he was just like, yo, we can use my space. Davon had at BCAT at the time, and we were having meetings there. You were there, and it was just perfect timing, right? That's how these things happen. It always happens at the right time, That's the thing that I think that a lot of people miscalculate, is the timing, right? Because you can have a great idea, but if you present it at the wrong time, it won't flourish. It won't take off. And with this, it took off at the right time because we had all these great people like Davon, you, Treya. We had a whole bunch of people that came and helped, make this thing a reality, right? And wow, the timing was just perfect.
Also the patience stuff. Because it was some meetings, it was some times I'm like, man, I ain't even try to do this no more. I'm sick of going to these meetings and talking to these people. It's never going to work out. I definitely had those thoughts, I did, because, man, when I don't say dude's name, but dude.
I know. Listen, that's the reason why it was just like, yo, you're right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But we were working with people that
didn't get it.
Well, that they didn't get our vision. They and that's the thing is like, I think sometimes being flexible can make it hard for people who are very concrete to work with you. So we had a guy who was a comic book animator, but he had a certain way that he did what he did. And if you and he was a good dude, and I learned so much from the way that he did it. But that wasn't the way we were trying to do it. So again, we cycled through a lot of different people and each one of them put stuff in us and helped us learn, but they weren't the right people to work with. So like you said, I think also DQ's vision gives you patience. Like when you have a vision, even if you don't know exactly what it is, and it gives you patience, and DQ's always the one where even if I fall off, I might miss some calls for people like, yo, man, let's get back on it. I'm gonna put you on a group chat with this dude and this person, and he was finding people and bringing them through the process. So I just want to say that there was definitely times where if I wasn't working with someone who was so determined, I probably would be like, man, I'm gonna go over here and go ahead and do this. I just was trying to remind everybody, like, whatever projects people are observing this are on, they're gonna not work before they work, right? And so, the movie stuff was so great and so successful, but then after that, it was probably a good, I would say, like 9 months, maybe even more, between when we did, like, Juneteenth and some stuff like that, to like the following May when we actually started to do the Wakanda Alliance.
Well, no, we were still meeting.
We were meeting,
still meeting,
but we weren't meeting about the Wakanda. We weren't saying we're going
right?
to do this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
We weren't saying this is the Wakanda Alliance.
Right,
we were just
right,
meeting,
right.
talking. All right, let me
Talk
try to
about the book and stuff like that. Yo, I still got those meetings. Those meetings were dope.
Yeah,
too.
we had that kind of notes, and we were, but I think that that's something now people want things to be quick, and they want them to, yeah, yeah. So just saying that, yeah, if you're working on a project, have patience. DQ's always reminded me to have patience and to bring me back into the conversation, even if I might get a little busy, because it wasn't like we were like, yo, we're gonna start the Wakanda Alliance, we're gonna do this, 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 and this. It was more like, we want to do something. We need to find the right people. We need to find the right space. We need to find the right place. And over the course of about a year, from when the movie came out to when the issues of Galactic Empire were coming out, to when we actually did our first session in May, when May 4th, that whole process took a year to go from the idea and the vibe to, like, this is the Wakanda Alliance.
Right. And let me tell you another thing too, is that, like, John has always been my partner in crime. Like, any idea or any vision that I had, he'd be like, yo, all right, let's go. Let's do it. So it's like, it just comes natural where you have, like, you got that partner, right? That teammate where it's like, I got to make sure.
But I think that that's an important point about how it in that, and I think that's part of the magic that we experience, is that it began in relationships, real relationships. And one thing that I have learned from y'all, that I'm as you all are a good example of this, is when you're working with people, and y'all are trying to do right by Black people, and some people may do it a different way than you do it. And I just be done with people. I'll be like, you know what? I can't work with them. You did it, but y'all, I really appreciate your examples. It really helps me, in the work that I do, the examples that you all set for me about how do I want to say this? I feel like you all have, you two in particular, have a very loving way of um working with people that at their core they have they heart in the right place, but that's not our ministry. If I can say that. And I think I really appreciate your example, because I needed some guidance with that, because I think that's what makes the Wakanda Alliance program so beautiful, because so many people, different people, come through, and some people it sticks and some people it don't, and that's okay, and we all learn from each other or whatever. But I think at the end of the day, it's not like this, like, no, you got to do it this way. It's like, okay, this is what this group is doing. That was a good example for me, because I think because sometimes you've seen so much of, like you were saying before, John, about, like, Black people that are the representatives that are really pushing the same colonizing agenda, right? And so I think what you all have modeled for me is differentiating between that. Like, what is, like, is somebody's heart in the right place and they're just not doing what they don't have the same vision you have, or is this person, like, legit, like, doing stuff that's harming Black folks? And I think that that's a good lesson for young activists, young organizers. I would say organizers, young organizers, to learn, and how to work with other people when you're doing this work, and how to know the difference between, so that we're not just writing everybody off. And so that has been a good example for me.
Yeah, and I just say quickly, like, I believe, like, if your heart's, it's all about alignment, and alignment is a process. And I'm aligning myself, you know what I mean? So I'm definitely a different person than I was when this started. And I know that there's a lot of people who come at me and knew my heart was in the right place, but didn't accept what I wanted to bring. And I never want to do that to anybody else, because people need the time and space to find themselves. And also, like, to me, why Afrofuturism is so important is that white people have retconned history. So like if you're understanding history from a white Christian perspective, you know what I mean? And that's what you were born and raised in, I'm not going to expect you to be Afrofuturist, right? I'm not going to expect you to say and do, but if you out here and you feeding people and you fighting for people and you serving people, I might disagree with your ideas, but I watch what you do. You know what I mean? So I feel like, and then that changes me. We all change each other when we're able to say, look, if this person knew what I knew, then they wouldn't be who they are. So let me see where they're at, and then you let it play out. Sometimes it don't play out well, and you can then be quick to separate, but at least engage, and then to me the engagement makes you better. Because then I'll be like, okay, well, even if I don't mess with you or want to work with you in the future, I'm gonna take the best lessons of how you show up, and I'm gonna keep them in my toolbox, and I'm gonna keep it moving as I go, because I think there's something to be learned from everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And it takes, and that's the thing about all of us. Piggybacking off of what you said, and as well as what you said, is that we wanted to have a safe space for people to express themselves, right? So, and we don't want them to come in and have to feel like they have to be this certain kind of they have to be this particular way. Like, we want you to be able to evolve into the position the position that you want to play, right? And like, even with him, like, I see and I know that this brother is a creative, just like I know you're a creative. We both are creatives, and I know that you both do this amazing work for other people, and I know that it's stressful. So I was like, yo, I wanted to create a space for you two that be able to get away from that stress that you have to deal with your jobs, right? Like, I know that you have a story within yourself that you can tell, Tiff, right? I know you do. I know you're going to be able to write a crazy, amazing Afrofuturistic story. I know you will, just like I know he will. And that's how, like, me and like, we would have these conversations. Like, he'd be like, yo, bro, I could just hear it in his voice, because I know everything that he does. Like, this dude is always out working for the people. And I'm like, yo, you need to take a break and be able to escape from that harsh reality that you deal with, because because I think that we all have that impact in us, where we're taking on, like, a lot of the grunt feelings of the people that we're trying to help, right? And sometimes you need to be able to escape from that. And I think that this is another reason why we're doing what we're doing, is so our brothers and sisters can have that space and escape that the stuff that we have to take on.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think that that's another beautiful part of the Wakanda Alliance program. And I always bring up that it's an intergenerational space, because I feel like, even though it is for youth, and we have youth in mind, but I feel like it is a space where so many people come and are replenished. And so many of us who give so much in other spaces, this is a place where we can be filled. And I don't know, I just think I think that's very Afrofuturist. I think it's magical. I think it's what's amazing to me is that I feel like the Wakanda Alliance program, in action, in actuality, in practice, lives out the Afrofuturist stance that it preaches. I feel like, even the way we interact with each other, like, I just don't see that in a lot of organizations. I don't see this, like what you were saying, John, before, like, everybody has something to say. I don't care if you're an intern. I don't care if you're, you just joined. Everybody's voice matters. Everybody's contribution matters. And it makes me think, I was in a event with Charles Payne, who was a researcher of the SNCC movement. I think it was SNCC, with where Ella Baker. And one of the biggest things there was, when they would ask, who made this decision, they could never narrow it down to one person. And that was a practice. Like, because everybody made the decision, right? It was never like this person made a decision, this person made a decision. It was so democratic to the point that everybody, and we're not trying to be, we're not into I think what we do is beyond democratic, like, and democracy. But I do think there's something about moving it as a collective, and even the way you all are describing how this story happened, and you are able to narrow down other people's beside yourselves contributions to making this possible, is a whole different way of even approaching the work, to be able to say, I've noticed how Anthony evolved in these ways, and these were his contributions. I noticed how they've gone, and then I'm interviewing them and they talking about y'all, and I'm like, well, I need to bring them in. And I think that's beautiful. That's how it should be, that you all are talking about each other when I'm interviewing y'all about y'all, and I think that's very beautiful. And I do want to ask you a question about the artist. I mean, the way the artists that come through this space is just bananas to me. I mean, like, visual artists, performance artists. I mean, it's like these Saturdays be like, and like a real, like, it's like a program, and we doing literacy with the youth. And guess what? We gonna let so and so, they got a little song for us. I was like, oh, okay. So was that always in the vision, or is that something that just happened because y'all know everybody? Is that is that
We'll let him take this. It always was the vision, because I was part of another collective that was United Melanin Society, and they were doing that. Like, well, they were doing, art, music, and like community, right? And unfortunately, it didn't, it stopped, right? So I was just like, well, okay, they gave me an idea. Plus, that's what happened. From that situation, birthed Panfrica, right? Which is a part of another dope collective that we're still around, and I love them. But they helped create that space. Well, they empowered me to believe that I was an artist. So I was just like, all right, well, I'm an artist then. I'm a visionary. Okay, cool. But yeah, it was really important to show Black creatives, right? And it's still dope. Like, I love it. And plus, on top of that, what really helped was COVID. The pandemic happened. And at first we were a little nervous because we didn't know what we were going to do because we were so busy doing this in person. But, building those relationships, like, meeting dope artists. I'm like, well, here's a platform for you to perform your stuff. Here's a platform to show what you're doing out here creatively.
And I think, like, it's always been a vision, and DQ's always, in a way, amused, like he's trying to inspire the art out of other people.
Yes.
But that's art in itself. And then I think when we brought in Davon's job was to develop young artists, right? That's not just his job, but that's who he is right? Yeah. Developing and engaging. So now you have all of his connections to the whole history of like hip hop culture in Buffalo and all of these different artists and creatives, not just Buffalo, New York City, everywhere. Just the birth and growth of hip hop culture, through DQ. Obviously, like, and then Davon comes in, he's got all these young artists and these kids that he's working with in these programs, and then I was bringing him over to the Grand Street Neighborhood Center, and we were trying to bring the art out of those kids. Because the truth is, I think everybody is an artist, everybody's a healer, everybody's an organizer, it's all situational, and I think that what we're able to do is we're always constantly bringing out, whatever we aren't bringing out ourselves, we're bringing that shadow out of each other. And so then Davon came in and he brought this more like structure or framework, saying, okay, this is how the artist, not just, you're not just going to bring them in, this is how they're going to perform. They're going to perform at this time, and we're going to use the art to set the stage for the art, right? The art of the Black Panther Intergalactic. No, we're going to let the artists, we're going to come in, we'll talk a little bit, we're going to say a few things, then we're going to bring this art in, and then we're going to bring Nikki in, and she's going to help us dance and move and recognize that we can interact with this art through our bodies in a different way. You know what I mean? So I think the combination of their minds and their connections And then Ant started going on Instagram and just finding everybody who was doing something with Afrofuturism and DQ too. They be on Instagram just looking for people, like, yo, what's up? You doing this? This is dope. This is dope. And then when COVID happened, before these artists were local, right? They were just people that were in our world, in our mix. When COVID happened, it was just like, well, now it's on Zoom, so now, yeah, we could get an artist from Africa. Yeah, we can get an artist from Cali. And then, one of the haters, like, there was this discussion even around the Black Panther about, is this all about Marvel and this is all about making them money? And it's like, no, actually the Black Panther opened up Afrofuturism to a global audience in a way that hadn't been done before. And whatever Marvel does, it's still our job to say, check out Concrete Comics too. Check out the Royalty Cosplay too. Check out what people are doing with this art and with this space. And I feel like now we're actually putting a structure under Wakanda that allows more and more people to come in through it and to be attracted through this multi-billion-dollar corporation. But now it's like, okay, now that you got attracted to the space, let's show you what our people are doing with this space too, so that we can help lift them up and help them grow too. And that's what's been, and I didn't, again, that was not expected. Right. I was just like, well, it's COVID, let's do it on Zoom, because I've been doing mad Zoom meetings for my job. So I'm like, you know what, I got a Zoom account, we could do this on Zoom. And then boom, and then Davon's crazy too, because we was at BCAT, which is an amazing place. They had Max and all kinds of stuff, like Dream World for artists and creatives. And obviously, just like the nonprofit industrial complex, things didn't work out with him there. But then, boom, he finds the King Urban Life Center, and it's like a beautiful old church full of new technology. So now we got a projector, we have it's a stage. It's literally a stage there for people to perform at. So again, like him finding that space and then doing him and using his video skills. So if you come, you'll see there's a big projector, then you got a computer, then Ant's got a video thing in his hand. We got John Terrius and one of the youth with another video perspective, and it became this whole production thing. And again, that happened in reaction to COVID. We didn't expect it, but again, when you're flexible, it just allowed all of our skills to come out in a different way.
That's just being a Black creator. Yeah. Like we being Black, like we've been able to take little things and make it into something big, right? Yeah. That's our imagination. And what's dope too, both spaces that we use have like this touch of Afrofuturism, right? They have like that futuristic like look, right? Like it kind of like how Africa is. Like like you look at Wakanda. Wakanda still has like some traditional look inside of it, but it also has that touch of futuristic touch as well. And both places that we're at have that futuristic touch, so it kind of just fits like like an outfit.
Well, I did want to mention that I was on the social medias the other day, and someone had wrote, and so like Coming to America 2 came out, and somebody said that Coming to America, the reviews of it is like the sugar versus salt on grits, because some people like it and some people don't, right? But somebody had posted Zamunda is the first Wakanda, right? And I got on there because I've been a part of the Wakanda Alliance program, and I've been reading the comics with the Wakanda Alliance program. And I went on there, I was like, actually, the comics have been out way before both movies. So I appreciate what you're saying about like connecting people like to the comics. Like it didn't start with this movie, right? Even though we're happy to have the movie, and the movie is important because it brought people like me into it. Like I didn't know about Black Panthers. I didn't really do comics, but when the movie came out, I was like, oh, what is this? And I think it so now it's like cool I even think like comics are cool now, like when it wasn't cool before.
Well, and where do we get that idea that comics aren't cool? Like,
right.
When you think about literacy and visual art, like people love writing and people love art. We're not supposed to love them beautifully weaved together. Like it doesn't make, and it used to make no sense when I was a kid. I'm like, people trying to fight me because I got a book full of art and words. Like that makes no sense. And I just want to say, like, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were two New York Jews, and you know what I mean? Like they had a particular personality, but think about it. Think about a white man in 1963. Like in 2021, it sounds crazy to say a white man created the Black Panther, but think about a white man in 1963 saying there needs to be a representation of the black fight against white supremacy in this comic universe I'm building. I can't build a comic universe without having a black hero that's literally whooping the Klan's ass and then fighting against the bad guy they created. Ulysses Clout, a German colonizer, right? Who's trying to use the ore of this country to expand his own power. Like that's beautiful writing, and obviously it's problematic because it was written in 1963. The world was a different place, and they weren't black. But they also consistently over time said, you know what, we aren't black. And once black people could write comics, right? Once that was like a norm, they immediately started to give this up and say, you know what? Here, Reggie Hudlin, Christopher Priest, let's bring in other artists. And I appreciate them for keeping it alive because the truth is, if Jack Kirby and Stan Lee didn't care about the Black Panther, it could have easily been shelved. But no matter what the numbers were, how good it was doing, how much hate mail and crazy, because yeah, you know how much hate mail they was getting for putting a black dude beating up the Klan in 1968? That might have got a white man killed at that time. So I want people to understand, even though it wasn't created by black people, I think it was created with a heart and intent to try to tell a story that Africa has value that is hidden by racism. And if you look at the Black Panther, he's like Nelson Mandela, Patrice Lumumba, you know what I mean? This very revolutionary yet very regal kind of attitude. And I just think it's beautiful writing. And then every black person that's touched it, every black writer that touched it, they laid the foundation, has just added so much. And then Ta-Nehisi Coates has just been he put it in space. He brought Shuri in and gave her not just powers, but powers that reflected African ancestry and history. So to me, the Black Panther, it evolves as we do, right? As we evolve our black consciousness, it evolves. And so now that we're hitting a real high point in black consciousness, it is reflecting a future that's a little bit further than we are. It's always a little bit further ahead of where we're at. And it challenges us that way. So to me, I think that it's just a beautiful work, top to bottom. And again, you can go back to the 1960s and nitpick little things. But when you look at it relatively, in the 60s, a lot of people were getting, even white people were getting blackballed for saying and doing the type of stuff that they were doing. And I think it's important that we recognize that, comic books have always been a space, because they've been rejected, they've been a space for marginalized people to create things that other people wouldn't be allowed to in other mediums. And now the world is catching up to, it's not like, oh, comics are a fad. It's more the world is catching up to some of the scientific the genius that has been going on. Yeah.
Absolutely. So this is my hopefully my last question from this rich, wonderful everything so far. So considering like how it started, how things that happened that you didn't expect to happen with the Wakanda Alliance program, the major impact that it's having on youth, on families, even I mean, I just remember the image when we were in person of like fathers and their sons and it was a lot of fathers and their daughters just coming to the Wakanda Alliance program. John always be having his son too, just chilling or talking about learning about the Wakanda Alliance African ancestry together. And this, like, it was just so beautiful. So considering all that and everything you shared up to this point, what is your hope for the Wakanda Alliance program moving forward? You can tell me your vision, or what is your hope, or what do you want to do, or even if it's something that you've already thought about, that you want to even just ground your roots even more in particular areas. So what is your hope um, moving forward with the Wakanda Alliance program?
I don't know if I should answer that because the ideas and the vision is so out there that if it falls into the wrong hands, it might get taken and destroyed,
Yeah,
right?
well, don't.
But me personally, oh my goodness, I see it as first and foremost, we need to be in the schools.
Yes.
This is a program that needs to be. This is the new social studies, in my opinion, right? Because what we're doing
And
is,
literacy and English class.
yeah,
It's a interdisciplinary.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Because I mean, you know, we're taking what was lied to us about our African traditions, culture, this is our way of life that you know that we were lied to about, right? So we're using this comic book to teach people who need to know the truth, right? So I see us being in the school systems. I definitely see us being in the schools. I mean, you gave confirmation of that when you came in and you were like, yo, you know, all your friends were saying like, you guys are so ahead of the curve. I'll never forget that when we were in front of BCAT and we were saying that like, yo, you guys are so ahead. And we're like, what, really? So I really see it being further. Me and I think that we would also love to do some more collaborations with other like-minded people from all around the world, you know, and make this into a big movement, right? Because it's strength in numbers. So the more people that see and understand what we're trying to do and come with that you know with that love, it can go everywhere. It can go across the world. Especially if we really want to bond with our brothers and sisters from the diaspora, from Africa. Like that would be so dope. That's what I really want us to do. I really want to see us have that relationship with our brothers and sisters from our home.
Yeah, I think school. Like, I think we could have a school. I mean, I think I don't really want to limit any possibilities, but I think having schools affecting curriculum, writing our own comics and our own stories, continuing to make sure that there's a deep connection between the Afrofuturist movement and the growth and profit of Marvel off of this universe that's being built by Black people, right? Ta-Nehisi Coates and DQ used to be like, yo, I wish there was a Black Star Wars. And Ta-Nehisi Coates has laid the foundation for the intergalactic empire of Wakanda to be that Black Star Wars. So we're going to hitch it to that, and we're going to follow that wherever it goes and wherever Marvel goes with it, and we're going to continue to bring our people in underneath that wave until we can establish our own dominance over the space of Afrofuturism. But if they got the infrastructure, people paying attention to what they're doing, that's great. Like keep moving the culture forward, and we'll keep filling it in. And I want like youth leadership. I feel like one of the things that's been hard is that we all got jobs, we have lives. Like this is what heals. To me, this is church, right? We're building a nation. We're literally building a nation of Afrofuturists across the world who are then figuring out how to write the future by first rewriting and editing going back over how the white man has edited the past, right? And so to me, it's just like when you do therapy, part of what you do is you talk about your past and it unlocks new possibilities for your future in your mind, right? And that's what we're doing, is it's healing work of pulling all that dirt, grime, and dust out of the past that we've been taught and we've been downloaded into us. And what would happen, technologically, if you could download Black liberation in the mind of every single Black person in America today, like that, boom, what's possible now? So to me, we're just chipping away at that, and it's quantum. It doesn't move linear. Like none of this stuff is linear. None of the world is linear, and the idea that white people ever even believed the earth was flat is nuts, right? It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Sorry for swearing. But we we are forming the future by dealing with the past, and I think that the possibilities are endless. And then what I love about this is when we can instill those possibilities in young people. Because I was thinking like this when I was like 9, 10, 11 years old, but everybody around me was whooping my ass for thinking the way that I thought. And now I imagine when my 9-year-old son thinks this, and he has a whole network of people that aren't going to whoop his ass or threaten him, but say, yes, keep doing it, keep growing. So that's exponential, that's parabolic. So I feel like we hitting the curve, and we about to just go all the way up. So I'm so excited about the possibilities, and even thinking about the networking we've already done in Africa. So like DQ said, Africa, Buffalo, all over the country, and then how are we going to write the future? Because I believe that white people have written us into a future that is very dystopian, and that's how Afrofuturism started. Was these white people keep writing this dystopian, horrific, terrible, disgusting stuff that does not have us anywhere near in it, and we're gonna write ourselves in it. So we're gonna continue to build off of that, continue to learn from our ancestors and from our young folks. And just the earlier that this starts in the mind, the further it can go. And every time I talk to a young person about Afrofuturism, I know that I'm even limited in what I can do with it. So passing that torch on to a generation of young people that is really out here, like we're not accepting these rules you gave us. And sometimes we don't like that. Sometimes it's not comfortable for us as older folks who I got raised. You got to wait your turn. And now that it's my turn, sometimes I don't want to give it up to younger folks. But at the same time, I recognize in those moments, you know what? This ain't the way to do it. We have to give them the space that they need. So I'm excited for the young me that's out there to be able to be encouraged in ways that I wasn't, and knowing that they're going to think of some stuff that I can't even imagine.
What about you? What about you, Tia?
Yeah, you part of the tribe too.
No, so
you got to answer the question.
What's your answer?
I just want to see the Wakanda Alliance program all over. I just want it on a large stage, and I want it to be funded. I want it to receive the respect that it deserves. I want to see tons of young people involved. And I want the instructors and the founders of the Wakanda Alliance program to institutionalize educators on another way to be. I think that there's a lot to learn from how we need to rethink how we educate our young people, how we include parents, how we embrace the pedagogies of Black educators, that comes from the love, the talents that we have was nurtured in our communities. And we go into these other spaces and it's not valued because they don't take the time to understand that our rich history that we come from, it's not even a history. I'm talking about something deeper than a history. I'm not deeper than a history, but different from a history. It's like an embodiment that's from our ancestors that you just can't bottle this up and sell it. It's just something about it that I tell people all the time, I didn't get my pedagogy from formalized institutions. I got it from my working class Black church, Mama Net, high expectations. And I think what I love about the Wakanda Alliance program, which is what I know to be true about Black educative spaces, is that it's intellectually rigorous. It's loving. There's high expectations. And even though there are high expectations, and I think when I was a classroom teacher, my classroom was like this. I think I've seen people who don't have degrees in after school programs with Black children like this. It's, we want you to think, but we love you, and we're here for, we're here for you with it. And I even think about something that I found so profound when I first came to the Wakanda Alliance program as a literacy scholar. So my literacy hat on, someone who's a literacy researcher and all that. And seeing this, so in the literacy field, we're taught that having students read aloud is horrible practice. Like having them read aloud and say, okay, now you read and you read next. Because if you think about it, when we were in school, in the classroom space, usually with like white teachers or whatever, it was a place to be ridiculed because you couldn't read or say you messed up words, or people wouldn't follow along. They would just everybody had so much anxiety about messing up words and looking quote unquote dumb or being corrected by the teacher in particular ways that made you feel not smart, that people would practice their paragraph and not really be following along. But what I saw in the Wakanda Alliance program, which really reminded me of a home place for me, which was learning in my working class church and like that, was you can read aloud here. And you know what? If you mess up words while you're reading aloud, we're gonna rally around you out of love, not out of correction to make you feel dumb. And I think that was very powerful for me to see. And I needed to be reminded of it because I forgot. Because you learn all of these things in the books about how literacy should be, what's good practices and best practices and all of this type of stuff. But I needed to be reminded of that's how I learned. Like that's how I learned. Like I went to a very small church. So I'm a leader because I was forced to be a leader because it wasn't nobody but 10 people there. You know what I mean? And so as a young, it was not, it was a little small church. It was very small. We all had to do stuff. We ain't had no choice. You had to get up. You had to read this. You had to do this. You had to lead the adults and do all of this stuff. And I think that, but I would mess up. Maybe I read the scripture wrong or I misinterpreted whatever. And people would lovingly rally around all of us, me and my cousins, and coach us into, and I forgot about that. And I forgot about the beauty of that because of my schooling. And then I think being in the Wakanda Alliance program reminded me of that. Like, oh, this is what it means to coach alongside in a loving way and not, and I think that's beautiful. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about continuing that. I'm excited about what this means for youth. I want us to bring more youth in, and youth leadership is very, very, very important. We have to learn from these babies. They need to be our guides, and, we coach alongside and support them, but we need to be listening to them. So I want to see that. And I want to, and yes, we can be in the schools, but I also think that there's something very special about this space because, sometimes schools can be limiting depending on the school. They are actually, and we can do that, but we can also continue to have our programming that we're doing because it's so liberatory. It's so liberatory, especially those of us who've worked in schools, and you can't even be the great educator you want to be because everybody watching, it's like, or you fight, but in the out of school spaces, and you just have these, and it's a good example for youth to see Black adults, like how to adult in a liberatory way. I don't know if that makes sense, but in a non-oppressive way. I can be an adult, you're an adult, and we're all like loving each other, because that's one thing I know I keep bringing this up, but I just think it's so beautiful because I'm in a lot of different social justice spaces and organizing spaces and this, that, and the other, and it's they can be very hierarchical, or or sometimes I don't feel comfortable just being myself or saying anything. Then I don't feel comfortable, I ain't gonna come, I'm just gonna leave because it's too much work to be done in the world. I can't be a part of something that's killing my spirit. I don't care what good work you're doing.
Well, it's punitive, it's competitive, and it's colonial. It's this idea that there is a right way, that there is one right way to do things. And that was designed by white people to invalidate all other forms of existence, right? Like, so there is no one right way to run a society, right? But even though democracy theoretically is supposed to be about engaging more people, the fact that we say it's democracy or nothing, well, what if a Muslim country don't want to have it? What if they already had a form of government that they've existed in for thousands of years before y'all ever were even a thought? But no, democracy is the right way. And the idea that you could take something because you believe it, now I think everybody else should do it because I believe it's right. That's whiteness. And that's what we got trained in. So that's what we reproduce when we're not intentional. And that's why I love this space, because we are intentional about trying not to do it. And also, hey, if we did it, oops, sorry, we'll keep moving. It's not, oh, you did it, and therefore reinforcing it. It's like, yeah, of course we're gonna do it. That's everything around us. All right, we did it, we messed up. Sorry, keep it moving. And I think that that's my problem with this frame of wokeness, is that it is a competition for who has the right to tell other people how to live, which is colonialism. It's not about a material understanding of how the world works and how we can be better people. It's, I know more than you. I'm not a competition. I know a lot of stuff, but I'm not trying to compete with nobody about it. I'm trying to know it so that I can help share it in ways, because I like to read books and I know a lot of people don't. So, you know what I mean? It's like, all right, I'm gonna read this book. Let's talk about it. Let's share it. I'm not gonna say, man, you don't know nothing about this Afrofuturism. You know what I mean? Don't talk about it. You can't talk about it. No. It's like, hey, you want to learn something about it? You know what? Actually, you already are an Afrofuturist because you're a black person and you clearly want to wake up tomorrow. That's how, you know what I mean? That's all required, right? Is you see a future and you're black. So
I didn't know everything. Like, I just be like it just kills me. Like if you look at I think you can see my consciousness raising if you just look at my social media from 2013 to now.
yeah.
You could see the consciousness, even my black feminism identity. Like, you could just see it just going from one way and it's just going this way. And I think that it is unfair for me to jump on other people who are coming into their consciousness when I wasn't always thinking about things the way I'm thinking now. But I also am not going to be used. Like, I don't like when people who they trying to dibble dab into consciousness, so they'll check in with you because you the woke friend and like, can I say this? I'd be like, I don't. What do you think? Because it's not about you doing a checklist or you coming up to me to see what I should, what I shouldn't, unless you really are trying to learn about it. It is about you, be with people, pay attention, have your ear to the consciousness, the epoch, like the moments, like what is this moment? What's happening in the world right now? And what do I need to be attuned to? And how do I genuinely feel about this? And have I read some stuff before I just ask for, not, you ain't got to read no article, but I mean, am I even looking at memes and whatever? It's a lot of different texts. The only text is not a book. It's a lot of different texts and mediums you could be looking through to engage, to think about our world. And so it's not about being like, oh, because also it's also not, you got to live this stuff. Like, you got to want to live it, even if you don't live it yet. You got to want to live it. It's not just trying to be right. Like, okay, so don't nobody say you're one of the isms or something, like a racist, a sexist, whatever, or homophobic, whatever. It's not about just doing stuff so that you're not called something. It's about being a better person, humanizing others and becoming more fully human ourselves as we humanize others, as we think about the intersections of everyone's experiences and how we can all do better about that, especially when I always think about myself in terms of like, okay, here's my identities that are present. Then here are my identities that are privileged. How am I thinking about that? How am I thinking about Black people who have identities they're Black and they have these identities that I have privileges? How am I ignoring that? How am I not paying attention to that? And I think like that's the work, not just trying to make sure you don't say the wrong thing.
Because then life is fluid, it moves. You know what I mean? So like, I know this because, and we talk about code switching as a bad thing, but it's more like understanding where you're at and communicating to be understood. And I just recently read a study about how human beings naturally mimic people who they're around, right? And it's a social, it's what allowed us to create language, was us actually staring at each other and mimicking each other's until we refined to a point where there was understanding. So, and I used to, as a kid, think that when I mimic, because I lived a lot of different places. So when I was in Brooklyn with my cousins in Brooklyn, I would talk different than when I was with my friends in Seattle because they talk different. And so communication is about intent. It's about us connecting. And so when you put another judgment, another gaze on that communication, it loses its purpose because it's not about like I'm trying to get something across to you, you trying to get something across to me. It's somebody watching us and then judging how we, you know what I mean? And to me, that's never going to produce any type of liberation. And we should all feel safe to communicate based on the other person's understanding for purpose. And to me, what wokeness is about people without context coming in and trying to impose their thoughts on a situation. And no matter how good-hearted you are about that, or no matter how much you want people to say something or not say something, it's not purposeful. It's not trying to move a conversation in a certain way. It's actually just saying, I still know better than somebody else, and I don't know better than anybody. I just want us all to figure out how we can communicate together and how we can build on that. And that's what being human is. And I think that, what white supremacy does is it literally kills the humanity in every single process and every single idea. And that even people who are white, if you are trying to bring life into a process, that's anti-racist work, right? That's human work. And there's some folks of color, there's some black folks out there that are trying to colonize and take the life out of and turn the life into money of something. And we're at a point now where we got to be more nuanced. We got to, Einstein said, like the level of consciousness that created a problem cannot solve it because it's like a plateau. It's like I'm still in the same hamster wheel trying to get out of the hamster wheel. So I just think it's a beautiful moment in time where you can see it. Before people talked about it, but with the internet, with technology, with the way technology and art are coming together, even this right here, you know what I mean? The fact that we can do this and broadcast it to the world without a whole lot of effort, you know what I mean, is to me is beautiful and what the future is all about.
Right, we're not even stifled. We're not, there's no limit on what we have to say, right? That's another beautiful thing at this moment too about what we're doing right here. Nobody's sitting here saying, "Ooh, watch what you're saying." We're being free. So
Be free because I'm gonna put explicit on this episode if you got to be free. That's what I
yeah, no,
do.
but it's good. This is awesome. I'm so ecstatic about what we're doing, and even this interview right here. I mean, this is special. It feels good, right? And that's the whole thing. Like we want everybody. You have to feel good about what you're doing. There has to be a purpose of what you're doing, especially now. You need to have. You can't do it. You can't be for the people if you're not a people person. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't understand why it's not even that difficult. Like just do it with love. That's all. Just do it with love, fun, patience. It's going to be good, So, to me, like Afrofuturism is always evolving, right? And me personally, like I feel like entertainment is the easiest way to reach our people and get the message across. Like Afrofuturism has been around for decades before all three of us were born, right? So, I just feel like we're just carrying the torch, we're not even creating like nothing new. We're just walking the path that was already laid out for us.
Right. Well, thank you so much for coming to the Evolving Education Project. You are a part of our second series, and I just appreciate this rich conversation as always. I mean, every time I talk to my bros, these two right here, it's just a good conversation. So much wisdom, so much fun. I feel like I could just talk to John about like ideas and concepts. And I could talk about ideas and concepts with you, DQ, and then act silly. And so it's just, it's great. And it is love all around. And so thank y'all so much for coming today.
Thank you.
And let me interview y'all.
We love you.
I love y'all.
Thank you. Listen, this right here, I feel like this right here is going to open some more doors and some more opportunities, you know, because that's the thing too, like relationships, like genuine relationships, like I think it's almost like a lost art in some sense. So I feel like, you know, this right here is a genuine relationship. And this right here, and for more people to see this interaction amongst us three, I think it should be contagious. You know, and I challenge anybody who sees this, like Pharrell, Ryan Krugler,
manifest it.
You know,
Collapse it into existence.
Missy Elliott, you know, I feel like, you know, hey, listen, y'all, what's up? What's poppin'? Come get some of this love right here. Let's build, you know, take this nation further, you know, come holla at us.
Holla. Holla.
Hit us on our DMs.
You know? DQ's open.
You know what I'm saying? Come on, let's go. Who else? Who else is out there that we should like? That would Marvel,
Kevin Feige,
Disney. You know, congratulations to Ryan Krugler as well for also striking that deal to make sure that there's more Wakanda content that's coming out. So I feel like that's going to also empower our kids, you know, because just imagine if our kids had that type of, you know, just imagine where these little kids are going to be. Well, when these little kids see this African nation, right, where their thoughts and imaginations will be 20 years after that. Unbelievable. Right. So, you know, we got a lot of ideas. Okay? We got a lot of ideas, so I'm just saying, like you know.
I know you got a lot of ideas because you be on a whole nother planet. And I be trying to get there. You know, my mind be like this. I be trying to get like. But anyway, y'all I ain't gonna hold y'all no longer. This conversation with my brothers, DQ and John, was everything. It's the relationships for me. Relationships, coalitions, a shared interest in Black Panther comics, and a love of Black people led them to create the Wakanda Alliance program, a space for Afrofuturistic activists to organize, for Black imaginations to flourish, and for Black creatives to shine. Thank you for listening to part 3 of our Liberate Your Imagination, the Dark Fantastic and Black Characters in Fairy Tales, Fantasy, and Sci-Fi series. Be sure to tune in for part 4, our last episode of this series, where we interview 2 more organizers of the Wakanda Alliance program, Anthony Pierce and Davon McCune, who were mentioned in this episode. Trust, you do not want to miss that. To find out more about the Evolving Education Project, to write in, or to join our listserv, check us out at evolvingeducationproject.com. And please download this podcast, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram. Please follow us on Instagram and love all of our posts. Like, just do that one day. I mean, it's a way to support us that's free. Don't you love free support? We hope to cultivate an authentic audience and community. We want you to help us to evolve over time and shape what this could be. Now that you know what we're about, let us know what you want to learn more about, authors that you would like us to interview, discussions you would like to have. Okay, that's all for now, good people. We out.